Hello everyone, my name is PrdBlackWatch and welcome to another episode of my Rainbow Six lore series. If you enjoy this series or if you enjoy the guides that I make in addition to this series for Siege, please feel free to like and subscribe for more content in the future. We're coming up now on 4,500 subscribers. Been very excited to come back and finally really make a dent in the YouTube community again when it comes to Siege, and I hope you can join me on my journey to hit 10,000 subs by 2023. Now that we know how the rift and eventual split within Rainbow came to be, we're left to pick apart the story ourselves. We know that those within Rainbow that were not already Nighthaven members, Pulse, IQ, Smoke, Finka and Ela, all decided that their futures belonged with the PMC. Case closed, right? Wrong. As some had already suspected, and as we can now surmise from a short clip of Harry standing in front of his operations board, not everything is as it seems with the defectors from Team Rainbow. So it's time for us to sit down and ponder the question, is Ela undercover within Nighthaven? The clip plays out simply enough. Harry discusses the shift from simulation and training into real field operations with newly formed squads, more on that in a future video, led by operators with the right background and talents to be a figurehead within each squad that suits their operational purpose. Cav for stealth, Doc for minimising collateral damage, etc. But then he goes on to discuss Nighthaven and what happened there. On the board he has the portraits of each defector, alongside portraits of Callie and Wamai. Where the other Nighthaven ops are, I don't know. These photos must be expensive or something. As he talks, we see him walk over to Ela's portrait and remove it from the board entirely. Curious, don't you think? If we take a few moments to explore the reasoning behind each defector's choice to leave Rainbow, there's a pattern that emerges, and it's one that Ela struggles to fit. Smoke's methods and philosophies have clashed with Rainbow's approach in the past, with Harry commenting, "I don't think Smoke was unhappy with us, but I can see how his philosophies might have aligned better with his new home." Thatcher is not so hopeful. He won't say it, but he's torn up over this. The prospect of a private organisation with less focus on morality and more on technology and its advancements is clearly very freeing for Smoke, who we'd seen previously testing his gas grenades alongside Nighthaven staff. For IQ, the argument about tech specifically is much the same. She thrives off the opportunity to refine and develop the technology she works with, and Nighthaven is the place to be for new and emerging technologies in the military field. As Harry put it, IQ has been enamoured with Nighthaven's technology since she returned from Singapore. Callie no doubt knew how to dazzle her new prospect. Finka's reasoning seems to have confused Harry, saying, "I can only assume that during her time on Callie's team, Finka formed new bonds with Nighthaven's agents. She had everything she needed here, but maybe she saw something more there." I believe that something more is more somber and personal in nature than you might initially expect. Finka has long suffered with a form of neuropathy that leaves her with, so far, incurable chronic pain every day. The exact reason why her gadget is formed around medical nanotech, and why she was seen during Sam's first day injecting herself with some sort of stimulant which Sam also uses, asking if it works on arthritis, though I have to remove points from them for sharing needles. I don't care how frequently tested you are, you don't share sharps. For her, it seems that Nighthaven presents some hope that one day she might be able to develop a cure for her condition. A hope that's strong enough for her to sever her bond with Tachanka and leave Rainbow for good. Pulse, the last among the Rainbow members left on the board, surprised Harry with his decision. Pulse is one I did not see coming, but I understand. He'd lost his sense of wonder, and he saw that excitement in Nighthaven. It's a much more simple, less material reason for choosing to leave, but one that comes with a much less simple implication, one that Harry sees immediately. I'll have to see how Hibana is doing. Of all the close relationships we've heard of within Rainbow, from Ying and Echo's short-lived romance to Tachanka and Finka's now compromised relationship, Hibana and Pulse have been the most enduring. We know in an alternate timeline that their bond was so strong that they go on to marry and have a child together, Admittedly problematic when alien parasites invade Earth, but that's a discussion for another day. So for Pulse to have been so drawn in that he would lose his closest partner and leave Rainbow for good, Nighthaven must have left an impressive mark. So where does this all relate to Ela? The key thing that ties these 4 reasons together is that each one involves that individual gaining something, whether that's a more accommodating command structure, access to the latest and greatest tech, a chance at curing a lifelong disease, or a fulfillment that just wasn't there in Rainbow. Each of them would actively gain from Nighthaven. Whereas Ela only had something to lose: her sister. The rivalry between Zofia and Ela is long-standing. Ever since their introduction in Year 2, we saw the animosity between them, from unique interactions with their gadgets, to taunting voice lines, and even points scored in-game by the sister who manages to kill the other during a match. There was no doubt that their battle with one another was fierce. Yet it wasn't always like that, and if you really think about it, is it not curious that after 5 years in the same unit, Ela would throw all that away just to get away from her sister? Ela has a documented psychological thirst for validation. In manifesting her memory of her father and his unyielding favoritism towards Zofia, Ela would push herself to the brink of her ability in everything she did, yet her drive to excel militarily and reach the unreachable level of her father's perception of Zofia was in conflict with her creativity and her desire for chaos. Where Ela saw her father's shortcomings upon his death and was willing to move on, Zofia doubled down on the divinity she described to him, and believed that she needed to replace him. She lost her way as a sister, trying to fill a role that, in Ela's eyes, didn't need to be filled. The damage that his death had inflicted on their relationship was palpable. His death galvanized Ela's need for validation, joining and excelling in Grom before being seen as so exceptional that she was offered a place in Rainbow. Zofia, having been cut off from her sister because of her misplaced attitude and obsession over the curious circumstances of her father's death, had now come to realise her mistake. The birth of her daughter reminded her of what she'd lost, and so she rejoined Grom when she heard of Ela's upcoming graduation from the unit, and when the offer came in from Rainbow, Zofia took it into her own hands to contact Six and negotiate an offer for herself as well. And that brings us to now. Clearly, based off their voice lines and interactions, the rivalry is still there, and the key to this theory working, still public. Zofia seeks to reconnect with her sister, despite her attitude, still clinging to some of the toxicity of her late father, whilst Ela, despite her protests and anger, seems to now seek validation from her sister. Zofia's conditioning to be the harsh mentor contrasts with Ela's need to be validated by her kin, and ultimately those two desires can only be fulfilled by the two of them being together, no matter how difficult it is for them. The key detail to this: nobody outside of Harry and those in charge of profiling at Rainbow know any of this. All they see is a very public, very bitter rivalry between two sisters. The solution Callie seems to have devised is to offer Ela a place away from her sister. If we're to believe my theory, it seems like Harry has baited that trap all along. Zofia has been running covert intel gathering for Harry all throughout the fracture, and all accounts from Ela's past show that she is an expert in intel gathering and infiltration. All of these elements together lead me to believe that Zofia and Ela have finally found middle ground through Harry. Together they've gathered the intelligence they needed to understand Nighthaven's intentions, and now they've leveraged their years of animosity to present a completely believable reason for Ela to finally move on, planting her unsuspected at the very heart of Nighthaven, ready to begin the search into what's really going on behind the branding and publicity. Want any more convincing? Guess which Polish older sister just got added into Kavera's covert squad. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Siege's lore and background, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more in the future. As the story unfolds and all the new content comes out in Year 7, guaranteed I'll be sitting there with my magnifying glass, ready to go through every single teaser image, every single bit of lore and information that we possibly get presented to us. Until then, I've been BlackWatch. Hope you've had a good weekend, guys. And if it's not the weekend and you're seeing this another time, I hope whatever time of week it is, it's the best possible time of week you could be asking for. Do pobачення, everybody. Bye bye.